Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS College Football Week 13. It's Saturday. Going to get through as many games as I can. Obviously not going to have time to get through them all. Let's have ourselves a great day.
I mean, it's Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points? I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Kansas at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get the sauce. Tulsa's on the road at Army, and it is senior day here for Army. And I know that a lot of people don't care about that, but Army in particular has been a wagon on senior day, 10-1 in their last 11 senior days. Now, if this was the old Tulsa, the Tulsa that Trey Lamb told us we were going to see during camp, he told us to expect a pass-heavy attack, a run-and-gun offense. I forget exactly what wording he used, but Trey Lamb told us that we can expect Kirk Francis to drop back to pass 45, 50 times per game. Kirk Francis isn't even the quarterback, and they've been running the ball. The reason I'm bringing this up is that plays directly into the strength of this Army defense. This Army defense hasn't been good. They're 122nd in success rate, 97th in PPA per play. They struggle in coverage. Well, the passing attack hasn't really been there for Tulsa. Baylor Hayes is currently playing quarterback. Not that he's been absolutely terrible. They've just been running the ball more. Baylor Hayes, an 84.6 NFL passer rating in the last 4 games. You look at Tulsa's numbers on the ground, over 191 rushing yards per game. Just not really what we were expecting from this Tulsa offense coming into the season. Not that the running game's been terrible, by the way. 43.8% success rate per rush, over 4 yards per carry. It's been okay. It hasn't been absolutely terrible, but the offense they've been running the last few weeks, I really doubt it's going to work here on the road against this Army defense on senior day. Now, I want to be clear about this. Army's defense is nothing special. I mentioned how defending the run has been their strength. They're not amazing. This isn't a good defense, but if you look at their numbers against the pass, it's clear that's the weakness of the defense. You can see in their conference games, they're allowing 4.23 yards per carry, over 45% success rate per rush. So it's not that Tulsa running the ball on Army is completely out of the question. It's just not exactly the type of offense I'd like to fade Army with. There are some injuries here to Army's defense. Here they are right here. Starting safety and fourth leading tackler, Casey Larkin. He got injured in their last game and is listed as questionable. Their defensive tackle, Tulodi, he's been out since week 8 and is listed as questionable. They also have a corner listed as questionable, Justin Weaver. He's been out since week 7. So Army's defense does have some injuries. Look, I don't think Tulsa coming in here running the football is completely out of the question. But if I'm going to take Tulsa to upset Army or to keep it competitive on senior day, going to need to see the passing attack there. And it just really hasn't been there. It hasn't been very efficient. On the other side of the ball, I mean, we know what to expect from Army. We're going to see the option. We're going to see a very slow pace. We're going to see a lot of running the football. Tulsa actually has been tough against the run. On the season, they're 87th in success rate per rush, 36th in PPA per rush. Look at their numbers from their last 3 games. Just 3.81 yards per carry, 34% success rate per rush. They actually did a great job against Oregon State, who had been pretty good on the ground. I think his name's Hankerson. That Oregon State running back has been very efficient. Tulsa actually shut it down. So maybe there's hope for Tulsa on this side of the ball. Just that option at home. Army hasn't played a ton of home games this year either. I would imagine Army's able to move the chains in this one. I think the number's too high. Is it still a 10? Yeah, I think 10's too many, so I would lead Tulsa in terms of a side, but I don't hate an under here at 45.5. So I didn't bet this game, but it would be Tulsa plus 10, under 45.5. I would make the game 7.5 and probably 43.5. That's what I'd do with this one. Missouri's on the road at Oklahoma. Sooners looking for revenge in what was a wild football game last year. This game was crazy. Final score was 30-23. What makes this game crazy, the score was 10-9 with 8 minutes left. It was 10-9 with 8 minutes to go in the game. Just madness. Pick sixes. I think there was a punt return in there. Just madness at the end of the game. And I remember it specifically because I was on the under. And it was looking like I was completely in the clear in the fourth quarter. And then it ends up going over like by 2 touchdowns. I think I had under 40.5 or something. It ends up clearly going over. It's like 100 points scored in the last few minutes of the game. So yes, I remember this game clearly. Missouri got the win. That one was at home. Now they go on the road to Norman. This is a place where Missouri hasn't won a football game since 1966. Missouri has not won a game here since 1966.
Quick update. So I recorded this, and Beau Pribula was questionable at the time. It has since been announced that it looks like he's going to play. So when you're listening to me talk about this game, just know at the time, it was up in the air. It was not determined on whether or not he's going to play. It looks like he is going to play now.
Missouri's offense looked good last week. We don't want to take credit away from them. 49-27 was the final score against Mississippi State. Their star running back, Ahmad Hardy, I think he had 300 yards rushing in the game. I didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure he had 300 yards rushing in the game. That's against one of the worst run defenses in the SEC at Mississippi State. They're not going to be able to do that on the road against Oklahoma. I mean, this might not only be the best defense in the SEC. This might be the best defense in the entire country. I'm sure Ohio State would have something to say about that, but specifically where they're strong is the defensive line. They're second in success rate, 8th in PPA per play, and look at their numbers against the run. First in success rate per rush, 8th in PPA per rush. We already saw this Missouri offense go on the road and play an elite defensive front in Auburn. They really struggled. In fact, I still don't know how Missouri even won that game. Well, yeah, I do, because Auburn's cursed. But in that game, Missouri averaged under 4.1 yards per play. Was a really bad offensive performance. And that was with Beau Pribula at quarterback. Beau Pribula's been hurt. We don't even know if he's going to play. Oklahoma, elite against the run. Like I said, probably the best defensive line in the country. In their SEC games, they're allowing less than 2.5 yards per carry. 33% success rate per rush. So, yeah, Ahmad Hardy had 300 yards rushing against Mississippi State. That ain't going to happen here against Oklahoma. Maybe they're getting R. Mason, their elite edge rush, R. Mason Thomas, I think is his name. Maybe they're getting him back on the edge. Maybe they're not. But I don't think Missouri's going to do much here offensively. Even if Beau Pribula plays, I'm reading there's a chance he plays. Even if he does, I don't think Missouri's going to do much in this game. If it's Matt Zollers at quarterback again, I wrote down here, I don't know how Missouri gets a first down. Obviously, that's a little bit of an exaggeration. I'm sure they'll get a first down. They do get their tight end back from injury. Brett Norfleet, he's been out. It's an important part of the offense, so maybe getting the tight end back does something, and maybe R. Mason Thomas doesn't play for Oklahoma, but yeah, I don't think Missouri's going to do much here offensively. On the other side of the ball, though, this is where I think Missouri can compete in this game. This defense is excellent. 11th in success rate, 15th in PPA per play. And we know this Oklahoma offense isn't really anything we're scared of. They have been running the ball a little bit more recently, but on the season, Oklahoma's 57th in success rate, 85th in PPA per play. John Mateer, since returning from injury, just hasn't been efficient throwing the ball. Now, he's still made some plays with his legs. It's not that he's been absolutely terrible, but in terms of throwing the ball, it hasn't been there. 68.9 NFL passer rating since coming back from injury. He's not handling pressure well. Well, in terms of throwing the ball, he's not handling pressure well. He still has the escapability. But yeah, the passing attack hasn't been there for Oklahoma. Now, like I said, they have been doing a better job running the football. It wasn't there last week, though. Last week, they went on the road to Tuscaloosa, a game that they won outright. They were held to under 2.7 yards per carry, 74 rushing yards in the game. It certainly wasn't the Oklahoma offense that won them that game. The pick six certainly helped. The defense was excellent. But if you look at the 3 games before the Alabama game, they were running the ball better. Now, I'm not going to tell you Oklahoma can run the ball against Missouri, but let's give them a little bit of credit. In the 3 games before the Alabama game, they were averaging over 4.8 yards per carry. This is still a really tough matchup. Missouri's elite against the run. They also have one of the best pass rushers in the entire country, and they do it without sending extra rushers. Now, Mateer, he's got the escapability. It's not that he can't handle the pressure, but in terms of delivering throws, he just really hasn't done a great job with it. So I don't know if I trust Oklahoma to throw the ball in this game. I don't know if I trust them to run the ball. I personally think that Oklahoma's defense is going to be so dominant in this game that they still figure out a way to cover the 6.5. So under a touchdown, I would still lean Oklahoma, but I'm on the under here. It's being bet back up, which surprises me. It's up to 42.5. I got under 43.5. Yeah, I'd still bet it at 42.5. I'm not sure how either offense moves the ball here. Should be a lot of running, low-scoring game. I'm on the under. Louisville's on the road against SMU, and that'll do it for Louisville. Back-to-back home losses. The loss to Clemson, man. They took that home loss to Cal. They got caught in a looking ahead to Clemson, but their season was still alive after that. In the Clemson game, 7 fourth-quarter penalties and 2 missed field goals. 7 fourth-quarter penalties and 2 missed field goals in the fourth quarter, and you lose by 1. That's just a backbreaker, and honestly knocks Louisville right out of the conversation when it comes to the ACC championship. Now SMU is most definitely still in a conference championship conversation. They're sitting at 5-1 in conference, so two teams kind of in different positions here. Louisville's season just ended. Meanwhile, SMU's healthier. They're coming off the bye week, and they're right in the running here to play in the ACC championship game for back-to-back years. So in terms of the positioning and the overall morale, you would imagine that things are a little more positive over on the SMU sideline here. In terms of matching these two teams up on the field, Louisville's offense, man, I know the numbers on the year look pretty decent. They're 46th in success rate, 73rd in PPA per play. The run game looks good on paper, 20th in success rate per rush, 25th in PPA per play. But remember, there's still no Isaac Brown. I believe he might be out for the year. That's their star running back. Now, that one kid has stepped up and looks pretty good, but Isaac Brown's an NFL caliber running back that isn't there for Louisville. And by the way, look at SMU's defensive numbers against the run so far this year. 20th in the country in success rate per rush, 3rd in PPA per rush. Now, you can argue that SMU hasn't seen the strongest rushing attacks in the world. Clemson, Wake Forest, Clemson and Miami are respectable, but Boston College, Wake Forest, not exactly the strongest rushing attacks, and Louisville does have a strong offensive line, so maybe there's a path to Louisville running the ball a little bit, but SMU's really been so strong up front. They're at home. They're coming off a bye week with a trip to the conference championship game on deck or possibly on deck. This team should be pretty fired up for this one. So I'd be surprised if Louisville comes in here and is able to move the ball. And in terms of throwing the ball, I mean, I don't even know if we know who's playing quarterback for Louisville. Obviously, the quarterback for most of the year has been Miller Moss, but there were some comments. There's some controversy there. Miller Moss hasn't played well. So I don't even know if Miller Moss is definitely playing quarterback in this game. Whoever it is going into a buzzsaw here. SMU, 16 interceptions. They have been thrown on a time or two this year, but they might be healthier in the secondary, and there's some ball hawkers back there. So I don't trust Louisville's offense to do much in this game. Now, on the other side, this is where I won't poke holes in Louisville. I love this defense. I think this defense is excellent. They're 12th in success rate, 17th in PPA per play. They also just got one of their main pieces back. Stanquan Clark came back from injury to play in the Clemson game. He even made a couple huge plays, too. So this Louisville defense, as good as it gets in the ACC. I will not poke holes in this defense, but in this particular matchup, SMU might still be equipped to score some points in this game. We know Louisville has an elite pass rush, maybe a top 10 pass rush in the country. Kevin Jennings is the Lamar Jackson of college football. There might not be a quarterback at college football that's better at thriving in chaos. Excellent numbers against the blitz, excellent numbers under pressure. He's coming off a bye week, so whatever that injury was he was dealing with earlier in the year, I think it was an ankle. He was limping September, October. There was a couple of games where you could see him limping. Looks to be healthy now and coming off a bye week, an extra week to heal. Kevin Jennings, if you said, Kyle, pick one quarterback that you'd like to go up against an elite pass rush, Jennings is towards the top of that list. He's a crazy athlete, and he handles pressure extremely well. So I think Jennings is equipped to actually deal with this Louisville defense. Also, this is where we've seen this SMU team turn it on. Under head coach Rhett Lashley, SMU is 13-1 in the month of November. So when it gets down to the thick of it, when it gets down to those games you need to stay in the conference championship race, Rhett Lashley gets it done. 13-1 in the month of November. I don't know how this number's below. Oh, never mind. It must have just moved. I just went. It's 3.5, 4 now. So 4 is where I made it. I have SMU minus 1.5. It's my biggest bet of the week. 4, if you can get a 3.5, maybe, but it might not be. Wow, I didn't even realize till just now it had moved. So yeah, I love SMU, but I got it at under a field goal. So SMU up. Kansas Jayhawks on the road against Matt Campbell and Iowa State. And we need to give Iowa State some credit. That TCU win, and I should know, TCU was one of my favorite bets of the week. I had TCU minus 5.5, closed at 7.5, monster edge. Felt like the man going into that one. Iowa State controlled that game. I mean, it was the worst spot ever for Iowa State. They were injured, traveling. TCU was coming off the bye week, getting healthier. Iowa State controlled this game. 2017 was the final score. Now they're matched up against a Kansas team that's coming off a heartbreaker. If you didn't see how this Kansas game ended, I had it on. I didn't have a bet on it, but if you're a Kansas fan, they were up 20-17. There was a lot of controversy about the coaching decision here too. So Kansas was up 20-17, just over 2 minutes left in the game. Kansas had the ball. They're up 20-17, and they have the ball on the 13-yard line. It's 4th and 2. They line up to kick a 30-yard field goal, which I didn't think was a terrible decision. It would have put them up 23-17. Obviously, Monday morning quarterback, hindsight's always 20/20. They missed the 30-yard field goal. Arizona then goes 80 yards in 90 seconds to score a touchdown and win. Just a brutal way to lose a football game. They didn't even play poorly in that game, and Arizona's been playing well. So this was a solid performance from Kansas. They're coming off a heartbreaker. But we cannot let that Iowa State win over TCU. So let's get into the matchup, by the way. Kansas against Iowa State. We cannot let that Iowa State win over TCU distract us from the fact that this Iowa State secondary is still an absolute mess. Safety Jamison Patton is questionable at best. Those were the words that were used in the article. Questionable at best. Starting safety Jamison Patton. If he does not play, that means Iowa State is missing their top 2 corners, who, by the way, were all conference last year. They're out for the season. And their top 2 safeties, if Patton doesn't play, which it doesn't look like he's going to. So basically, the entire secondary is still out for this Iowa State defense. And look, Kansas might be missing Daniel Hinshaw Jr. That's one of their main running backs, but their other main running back is LaShawn Williams. He's back from injury. He had missed a couple games, I want to say late October. He's back. So this Iowa State secondary is just too injured for me to trust right now. And we might be looking at the ultimate buy low spot on this Kansas offense. I know the offensive numbers don't look that great. Specifically, the passing numbers don't look great recently. If you look at their recent games, I mean, they lit up Oklahoma State. The 3 surrounding games, Texas Tech, best defense in the conference. They were on the road in Lubbock. Kansas State, great defense. Arizona, rising deep. They're one of the best defenses in the Big 12 that no one's talking about. So 3 of their last 4 games are against really strong defenses. This Iowa State secondary injured like this, I don't think they belong in the same conversation as those teams. And this is an Iowa State defense that's really struggled to generate pressure. We're talking about Jalen Daniels from clean pockets. It's been a while since Daniels had a breakout game throwing the ball. Could be the perfect matchup against an injured Iowa State secondary. So yeah, I expect Kansas to score points in this game. And on the other side of the ball, I mean, I'm not really loving the Iowa State offense right now. Rocco Becht hasn't looked great. He's also playing through an injury. I think it's a shoulder injury. I didn't even write it down what it was, but he's been dealing with an injury the last few weeks. He hasn't looked quite as sharp as we're used to seeing, but this Kansas defense, I mean, they just cannot stop giving up huge plays. They're 111th in PPA per play. You look at Kansas defensive numbers in their last 6 games, they're allowing over 6.2 yards per play, 31 points per game, just 2 interceptions in their last 9 games. In fact, if you look at Kansas' recent body of work here, they've played 1 good defensive game. Want to know which game it was? It was the game against UCF when Taven Jackson got hurt and their backup quarterback, Ja'Cory Brown, was also hurt. Cam Fancher came in and played quarterback for UCF. So that was Kansas' only solid defensive performances when they were playing UCF and on their 3rd string quarterback. Yeah, I don't trust this Kansas defense at all. I don't think the secondary is very good. They struggle against the run. I think Iowa State can move the ball right back. I did post a bet on this game. I took over at 53.5. It looks like it's at 55.5 now. I still think it's a point too low. I would make it 56.5. So I still think it might be a little playable at 55.5. But yeah, I'm on the over in this one. Minnesota's on the road at Northwestern. This game's at Wrigley, by the way, just like the last game was at Wrigley. And speaking of the last game, man, this would have been such a huge win for Northwestern, and they didn't deserve to win. Michigan was the better team for most of the game, but Northwestern rallied late, and they actually took a lead, and Michigan kicked a game-winning field goal to win 24-21. Man, Northwestern really looked good there for a stretch. But like I said, Michigan deserved to win. They were the better team, and hey, I had plus 10.5. Shout out to Northwestern for the cover, but that would have been such a huge win for that program. So look, based on recent performances, you would think there's no way Minnesota can play with Northwestern. And no one's going to argue that. Northwestern has been I don't want to say significantly better because it's Northwestern, but they've been the stronger team here. We really haven't been able to rely on this Minnesota offense to do anything all year. They're 94th in success rate, 107th in PPA per play. I mean, the strength, I don't even want to say the strength because it hasn't been strong, but the only thing I trust this Minnesota offense to do is get the ball in the hands of Darius Taylor, who's back from injury, by the way. And what Northwestern has struggled with is the run. 122nd in success rate per rush, 123rd in PPA per rush. Northwestern's defense is also dealing with injuries. Their main linebacker, Yanni Karlaftis, that's the Chiefs guy, Karlaftis, that's his little brother. He's out for the season. That's not new. He's been out since like week 4. So that's their main linebacker there. Newer injuries, their edge rusher, Aiden Hubbard, left the Michigan game in the first quarter. He's listed as questionable. Another edge rusher, Richie Haggerty, who I believe would be starting in Hubbard's spot, he is most likely missing his 3rd straight game. So there's some injuries here on the Northwestern defense. They've struggled against the run. Now, I want to be clear. Minnesota's offense is it's not good. I mean, look at their numbers in their conference games this year. They're averaging less than 18 points per game, 4.41 yards per play, success rate just over 36%. This is not a good offense at all. But the one thing Northwestern struggles with is defending the run, and Minnesota has a big physical superstar running back in Darius Taylor, who's healthy. So don't be surprised if Minnesota's handing the ball off and Northwestern struggling to get off the field. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And on the other side of the ball, we've got kind of the same story here. Northwestern is an offense that wants to run the ball. They're much better at it than Minnesota is. I mean, I can't believe Komolafe was their backup. Remember, Cam Porter's supposed to be their running back. He got injured out for the year early in the season. Komolafe takes over. This dude is a monster. Their backup running back, Komolafe, he's been great. Northwestern, 41st in success rate per rush, 42nd in PPA per rush. But this Minnesota defense, who hasn't been good, they have one strength. Their defensive front seven is pretty strong. I know these numbers don't really show it, but they do have a strong defensive line. They have a couple good inside linebackers. This might not be the easiest matchup for Northwestern to hand the ball off, and I don't think they're going to be able to just pound the ball between the tackles and average 4 or 5 yards per carry against this Minnesota defense. And look, I know it sounds like I'm trying to pitch Minnesota here. Northwestern is the stronger team. It's not a question. It's just the way these two teams play. This is a classic Big Ten West game. This just feels like a field goal game for me. And I mean, Minnesota's had success against this Northwestern team. They're 6-4 straight up, 6-4 against the spread in their last 10. That dates back to the Fitzgerald era, by the way, when Northwestern was strong. I mean, Minnesota's team was stronger back then as well. Now, I do know there's concerns about Minnesota playing on the road. They've looked terrible in the road game so far this year. They're 0-4. They haven't won a single road game yet. But can we cut them a little bit of slack? The first one was against Cal. That's a bad loss. They lost by 13. It was early in the season, a non-conference game on the other side of the country. There are 3 road games since then. Can we cut this team a little bit of slack? They played Ohio State, Iowa, Oregon. Those are the 3 strongest defenses in the conference by far. The three strongest teams in the conference by far. This road game at Wrigley against Northwestern is by far their most winnable road game, and this just feels like a field goal game to me all the way. PJ Fleck should have his defense ready to bounce back after that Oregon game. I think Minnesota's able to move the chains on the ground and play the field position game here. Yeah, this is a field goal game, so I didn't take it, but I think Minnesota +4 is a move. Northwestern's so much better, but at Wrigley, Minnesota's going to be able to run the ball. That defense should be ready. It's a field goal game. Give me Minnesota +4. I might add it, but as of right now, nothing. The Charlotte 49ers are on the road in Athens to play Georgia, and you might be wondering, Kyle, why are we talking about this game? I actually bet this game. So, look, we can match these two teams up on the field. I'm hoping that if you're watching this, you already know that Georgia's considerably better than Charlotte. These graphics are not even going to be close. Georgia's defense, 33rd in success rate, 52nd in PPA per play. Charlotte's offense, which, by the way, they've had their quarterback's out for the season, Connor Harrell. So Grayson Loftus is now playing quarterback. They're 121st in success rate, 126th in PPA per play. Yeah, we know. Now, we could talk about the injuries to Georgia's defense. Keep in mind, I mean, this is a Georgia team that's looking ahead. They've got Georgia Tech on deck. They've got possibly the SEC championship on deck. They've got possibly the college football playoff on deck. There's a lot of stake here for Georgia where we're not going to see them force these injured defensive players onto the field. Safety Kyron Drones is going to miss another game. Defensive tackle Jordan Hall is going to miss another game. And CJ Allen, who's one of their best, I think he's the leading tackler on the team. He just got injured in the Texas game. He's not going to, well, he hasn't been ruled out, but it's one of the most important players on their defense. They're not going to force him out there injured to play Charlotte. Now, you might be thinking, Kyle, who cares? Georgia can still beat the Christ out of Charlotte without these players on defense, and that's absolutely correct. You look at the other side of the ball, not even a discussion here. Charlotte's defense, 136th in success rate, 116th in BPA per play. Georgia's one of the most, I'd say, top 15, top 10 offense in the country, probably a top 10 offense in the country. So why did I bet Charlotte plus 45.5? Well, here's why. We know Georgia can beat Charlotte by 50 points if they want to. The question is, do they care to? Because Kirby Smart has a history of not routing these teams. Here are Georgia's games from the last 3 years against lesser non-conference opponents. So games like this, home games against a team like Charlotte. They played Marshall week 1 this season. Now, Marshall's better than Charlotte. This might not be the best example. Final score was 45-7. Did not cover, minus 45.5. Week 2, they played Austin P. That's an FCS program. 28-6 was the final score. Did not win by 46. Week 2 in 2024, they played Tennessee Tech. Final score, 48-3. Did not cover, minus 45.5. Later that season, we're talking about last year, in week 12, they played UMass. Actually, UMass had an early lead or something in that game. Final score, this graphic's messed up, but the final score was 59-21, I believe. Did not cover, minus 45.5. Rewind back to 2023, they played UT Martin. Final score, 48-7. Did not cover, minus 45.5. Ball State, later that season, 45-3. Did not cover, minus 45.5. The year before that, we're back to 2022. Now they played Kent State, 39-22 was the final score, did not cover. That same season, they played Samford, an FCS program, 33-0, did not cover. So in all these years, they didn't cover, minus 45.5 in one of these games. Kirby Smart has a history of not beating up on these teams, get out to a lead, hand the ball off. 45.5 is a huge number. I'm on Charlotte here, plus 45.5. I know it's crazy. Georgia could win this game by 90 points if they wanted to. But history shows that they don't always want to. So go ahead, Charlotte. Stay within 46 for me. I'm on Charlotte plus 45.5. I did bet this. Baylor's on the road to play Arizona, and this Arizona team is kind of flying under the radar right now. So they took that loss to Houston in a game. I bet Arizona in that game. It was a game I thought they should have won. Their defense was surprisingly struggling, but they lost that game to Houston, and their hopes of possibly playing in the Big 12 championship went down the drain when they lost that game to Houston. So we kind of stopped paying attention to Arizona because they were no longer in the running. Since then, they've been flying under the radar, playing some pretty good football. They blew Colorado out. They come from behind to beat Kansas. Then they beat Cincinnati on the road. And the two most recent wins, the Arizona win and the Cincinnati win, they are Arizona. The Kansas win and the Cincinnati win, they were losing at halftime in both those games. So showing some resilience. This Arizona team, no one's really talking about it. They're playing pretty well. And specifically, they're playing pretty well on the defensive side of the ball. Their secondary is excellent. They're 4th in success rate per dropback, 24th in PPA per dropback. Their defense is flirting with the idea of being a top 25 defense in the country, 21st and 33rd. Now, you might think, well, who cares? Baylor's offense is explosive. And look, I'm not expecting Arizona to just completely shut down Baylor, but Baylor is an offense that wants to drop Sawyer Robertson back to pass. This is a pass-first offense, and nobody has been throwing the ball in Arizona. Look at their last 2 games. They played Kansas with Jalen Daniels and Cincinnati with Sorsby. Those are 2 of the most explosive passing attacks in the conference. They held those 2 offenses to 6.05 yards per pass attempt. So neither Kansas nor Cincinnati were able to throw the ball in this Arizona secondary. Now, Arizona has been vulnerable to the run. And if you want to beat this Arizona team, if you want to move the ball in this defense, dropping your quarterback back to pass 40 times is not the way to do it. You're going to want to run the football. Baylor has a star running back in Bryson Washington, and he's healthy. He was banged up earlier in the season. It's just not normally what we see from Baylor offensively. Arizona's defensive tackle, Savea, he missed the Cincinnati game. He's listed as questionable. Not sure if he's going to play. So Arizona might be missing their defensive tackle again. Baylor's going to be able to run the ball in this game, but it's just not the typical offense we see from Baylor. Baylor is usually an offense that's dropping Sawyer Robertson back to pass, connecting on crossing routes that go for 60 yards. They're 23rd in college football in explosive play rate. The Arizona secondary is very strong. Like I said, they don't give up a lot of explosive plays. So Baylor should be able to move the ball in this game, but I think they need to shift out of their comfort zone to do it. I think we're going to see Baylor running the football, not the typical Baylor offense that we're used to seeing. And what I just said about Baylor's offense copy and paste it, and you could say the same thing about Arizona's offense in this matchup, because this Baylor defense, we know it's had all kinds of problems this year. 102nd in success rate, 79th in PPA per play. Aranda just got extended through next year, by the way. I believe that, or not extended, they announced he's coming back. That was something I heard today. He's a defensive coach. Look at the defense. Math ain't mathing on this. But this Baylor defense, very vulnerable to the run. If you look at their numbers against the pass recently, I mean, in their last 3 games, they played Cincinnati, Central Florida, Utah. They're allowing 5.43 yards per pass attempt. This Baylor defense, as many problems as they've had this year, they're actually not terrible against the pass. Arizona's going to be running the ball. Now, Baylor can't stop the run at all. This is not what we typically see from the Arizona offense. Not that they can't run the ball. I mean, in their conference games so far this year, 4.28 yards per carry, over 44% success rate per rush, 140 rushing yards per game. It's just not normally what we see. Normally, what we see Arizona doing offensively is dropping Fafita back to pass and having him connect on big throws. Over 3 seconds, average time to throw. He likes to stand in the pocket and deliver strikes. Baylor blitzes a lot. They're just not a team that gets beat with those huge plays. They get beat on the ground. They can't get off the field. So also, Arizona might be missing their starting right tackle, Tristan Bounds. He got injured in the Cincinnati game. I think we're going to see Arizona run the football here, which is not what we typically see. Baylor's defense, they've had all kinds of problems. They're 18th in the country in explosive play rate allowed. This is a defense that just gets run on. They can't get off the field. So I would imagine Arizona, they know they can run the ball. They know they can continue to move the chains. Why wouldn't they do it? What's going to keep me off this under, spoiler alert, I kind of like the under here, is the pace. Baylor, super fast team. Arizona, typically a fast-paced team as well. But I think in this game in particular, we're going to see these two teams that normally throw the ball a lot running the ball. So I do expect the offenses to move the ball, but I expect the clock to be continuously rolling. I would go under here at 62.5. I didn't pull the trigger on this one, but I kind of like the under. Nevada is on the road in Laramie to play Wyoming. Where did this game come from? Nevada, 55-10 over San Jose State. What? Nevada's one of the worst teams in the country. They win by 45 points over San Jose State, who, by the way, coming into the year, was in discussions as a possible dark horse in the Mountain West Conference. So here Nevada is looking to grab back-to-back wins, which Choate has not been able to do since taking this job. Look, we need to give Nevada's offense some credit. It was a great game against San Jose State, 6.77 yards per play, over 48% success rate. Obviously, they scored 55 points, but I'm not going to let that one game, maybe they figured something out, but I'm not going to let one game erase the previous 5 or erase what we've seen this season. Nevada, to me, is still one of the worst offenses in the country. In the 5 games before that, they're averaging 13.2 points per game, 4.37 yards per play, 33% success rate. This offense has looked terrible. I'm not going to let one game convince me that we can all of a sudden trust this Nevada offense. On the season, they're 125th in success rate, 128th in PPA per play. They're going on the road to Laramie, where this Wyoming defense, not only have they looked pretty strong this year, but they've always historically been tougher to move the football on at home. And this is senior day. They have a sellout crowd for Josh Allen's retirement ceremony at halftime. They're retiring Josh Allen's jersey. Jeff Choate came out and said everybody in the state of Wyoming is going to be there. The entire state of Wyoming is going to be there to see Josh Allen get his jersey retired here. So huge game for Wyoming. The defense is strong. They always seem to play better at home. I would imagine Nevada goes back to being a terrible offense here. In their last 3 games, Wyoming's allowing just 16 points per game, 5.16 yards per play, 31.4% success rate. Teams are really struggling to move the ball in this defense. They might even be getting their defensive tackle back. His name's Anish Vyas. I hope I said that right. He's been out since week 8. They might even be getting him back. So, yeah, I don't expect Nevada to move the ball in this game. The question is, can we trust Wyoming to move the ball? Because this offense, man, there was a brief stint. We'll talk about it in a second. On the season, Wyoming's 112th in success rate, 118th in PPA per play. So Nevada's actually had the advantage on this side of the ball. I mean, Choate's a defensive coach. Kane Ione, they've got a good defensive coordinator there at Nevada. So can we trust Wyoming to score? Because if we're considering laying, what is it, 6? It's at 6.5. If we're considering laying 6.5 points here, we're going to need to score. The defense can't cover -6.5 by themselves, or maybe they can in this one. We're going to need the offense to do something. And as bad as this Nevada team has been, you look at their game logs, this defense has been all right. They've been pretty strong against the run at times. I mean, look, it's not good, but it's by far the strength of the team. Wyoming made a change offensively in week 9. They changed play callers, and they jumped out to a 28-0 lead in that game. They actually won the game 28-0. That was the final score. That was the border war against Colorado State, a home rivalry game. And there was a second where it's like, okay, maybe with the new play caller, this offense isn't that bad. I mean, since then, 3 yards per play. They also played San Diego State, best defense in the conference. I mean, it was a brief little flame there offensively with the new play caller. But this is a similar spot. It's a huge game, senior day, Josh Allen retirement ceremony. So it's similar to this week 9 game, which was a huge home rivalry game. So I think Wyoming could do something offensively. I think the move is to go Wyoming -6.5. This offense is so bad. How do you lay 6.5? But I don't think Nevada's able to do anything offensively. So Wyoming -6.5 for me, under 40.5, but I didn't do anything in this one. Let's talk some Conference USA here in what would be a massive game if Missouri State didn't have that temporary, they're ineligible for postseason play because it's their first year in the FBS. I don't know a single person who thinks that rule is cool. Like, I don't know a single person who agrees with that rule. But yeah, Kennesaw State 7-game winning streak comes to an end. 35-26, they lose to Jacksonville State. Honestly, it was bound to happen, though. This team was playing with fire. The couple games before that, remember the UTEP game, UTEP looked like the stronger team through a lot of that game, and there was a couple questionable calls there at the end that kind of gifted Kennesaw a touch. Whatever, we don't have to play the ref game, but if you watch that game, you would agree that there was large chunks of that game where UTEP looked like the better team. And then New Mexico State missed a field goal to tie the game with 30 seconds left. So they were kind of playing with fire. The winning streak was bound to come to a close, and it definitely did. Jacksonville State beat them up 35-26. Look at the standings here in Conference USA. It's disappointing that Missouri State is ineligible for the Conference USA Conference Championship game because this would be massive. Still a huge game, but it would be that much more crucial if Missouri State was able to play in the Conference Championship, which they're not. In terms of the Kennesaw State offense, hasn't looked nearly as explosive recently. I mean, they had that stretch where it was looking like this is one of the most explosive offenses in Conference USA. Over 48% success rate, 6.9 yards per play, 33 points per game. You look at their last 3, they're kind of lucky to be 2-1 in this stretch. Under 40% success rate, under 28 points per game. Remember, I know 27.7 points per game still looks great. This is a team that runs a very fast pace, so points per game are a little misleading. The offense hasn't looked that efficient recently, and now there's quarterback questions. We'll get into it in a second. The point I'm making is you look at these season-long numbers between the Kennesaw State offense and the Missouri State defense, and it looks like Kennesaw has the advantage here. But the thing with the Missouri State defense is their numbers are insanely skewed. On the season, they're 112th in success rate, 114th in PPA per play. But remember, this team played USC and SMU earlier in the season. USC put 73 on them. USC put video game numbers on Missouri State. If you take out those 2 games against superior Power 4 opponents, by the way, they actually played SMU tough for a while in that game. Second half, not so much. But if you just take out those 2 games, this Missouri State defense has been pretty solid. In their other 8 games outside of those 2, they're allowing less than 20 points per game, 5 yards per play, success rate just over 41%. So this Missouri State defense has actually been pretty good outside of those 2 games, which is just skewing their year-long numbers. On top of that, Kennesaw State has some concerns here. Their leading receiver by far, Gabriel Benyard, he's out for the season. He leads the team in everything, receptions, yards, touchdowns. He's out for the season. And their wide receiver 3, Lyndon Rivare, he left the Jacksonville State game injured as well. He's listed as questionable. So Kennesaw State's coming into this one. They're definitely missing their top receiver. They might be missing 2 of their top 3 receivers. And there's also a situation at quarterback now. Amari Odom got benched in the Jacksonville State game after throwing 3 interceptions. It's uncertain who's playing quarterback for this team right here. The battle on this side of the ball is going to be right here. We know Kennesaw State is going to try to run the ball in this game. They have the size advantage on the offensive line. Look at their last 5 games. The run game has been pretty consistent. It's the passing attack that's kind of fallen off a little bit, I guess we could say. But in their last 5 games, over 4.5 yards per carry, 43.7% success rate per rush. Missouri State has been pretty solid against the run, but not elite. Over 3.9 yards per carry, 42% success rate per rush. Missouri State head coach Ryan Beard even came out and said their number one priority is stopping the run. So we should get an idea pretty early on whether or not Kennesaw State's able to move the ball. Are they able to generate push on the offensive line or not? So Kennesaw State's going to try to run the ball. Uncertain if Missouri State's able to generate stops. On the other side of the ball, I'm not really sure. Quarterback Jacob Clark has played pretty well for Missouri State. Remember, he was injured. Since coming back from injury, he's actually played 4 games. If you look at his numbers from the last 3, it looks pretty solid. 116.8 NFL passer rating. He's played pretty well. Kennesaw's defense, I mean, they got completely smoked last week on the road at Jacksonville State. In the 2 games before that, they played well. 20.5 points allowed per game, 32.4% success rate, under 4 yards per play. So back-to-back elite defensive games following by just they got scorched by Jacksonville State. Here's the thing. The 2 games before that were against UTEP and New Mexico State. Missouri State's offense is definitely stronger than both those teams. So, yeah, I think Jacob Clark can make some throws in this game. I don't think this number should be 6.5. So at 6.5, I would take Missouri State. In my opinion, the number should probably be 4.5, but I don't feel confident enough. Kennesaw State, I feel like, is getting priced like they're still playing, like it was like they were playing in week 8 and 9, and they're not anymore. So give me Missouri State plus 6.5 in this one. I probably won't add it, but I don't hate it. The UConn Huskies are on the road to play Florida Atlantic. UConn cannot just sleep on this FAU team. Kitley's got this team trending upwards. They're just 1-2 in their last 3 games, but they were pretty competitive or somewhat competitive in the Tulane game. The Navy game, the final score was 42-32. They scored a couple touchdowns late, but the offense is coming around a little bit. And UConn's defense, look, last week was a good showing. They won 26-16 over Air Force, who has a very strong offense. Thing is, Zarka got injured in that game. That's Air Force quarterback, leading rusher. If Zarka doesn't get hurt, I mean, Air Force looked like the stronger team early in that game before Zarka got hurt. So I would imagine if Zarka doesn't get hurt that this game comes down to the wire. But regardless, let's give UConn some credit. Double-digit win over Air Force moves them to 8-3. If they win this game, which is their final game of the year, they'll log back-to-back 9-win seasons for the first time in program history. So huge game here, season finale for UConn. And honestly, even though this FAU offense is showing signs of life, it might be a nice matchup for UConn's defense. This defense has been disappointing this year. Remember, their defense was elite last year. They lost 9 of the 11 starters. They're 116th in success rate, 71st in PPA per play. But UConn has one glaring weakness on the defensive side of the ball. They can't stay on the line of scrimmage. They're just getting blown off the ball, 131st in success rate per rush. Teams are handing the ball off, and UConn just can't get off the field. FAU is not that type of offense. They're 3rd in the country in passing frequency. Remember, their head coach, Zach Kitley, he comes from Texas Tech. They move at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and all they do is throw it. So FAU is most definitely not a downhill physical run game, which is the type of offense that has given UConn problems. Quarterback Caden Velkamp's also dealing with a shoulder injury right now. He's playing through it. I don't think he's at risk of not playing, but apparently he's been dealing with a shoulder injury and isn't 100%. And even though this UConn defense has not been reliable this year, if we're just talking about their defense against the pass, they should be able to give FAU some problems. I mean, they blitz a lot. Now, Caden Velkamp tends to get the ball out quickly. He also has nice numbers against the blitz. So you might say, oh, this is a good matchup for Velkamp. The thing is, are they able to keep him protected? I think a lot of these blitz packages might get home. UConn, 35 sacks this season, which is top 10 in the country. So I think UConn's defense should be able to stall some drives, get into the quarterback. Like I said before, this UConn defense has struggled against the run. They've struggled to get off the field. Other teams have sustained long drives against UConn. That's not FAU. Florida Atlantic's offense is very reliant on explosive plays. They're actually 11th in the country in explosive play rate. UConn's defense hasn't really given up big plays. They're 14th in explosive play rate allowed. So I actually think UConn can play a decent defensive game here. And sticking with this graphic, UConn's offense, 19th in explosive play rate. Unlike UConn's defense, FAU has struggled giving up big plays. And when it comes to the other side of the ball, I don't have any criticism of the UConn offense. It's been great 37th in success rate, 18th in PPA per play. They're also getting a piece back. Running back Mel Brown is set to return. He hasn't played since week 3. He had 159 yards rushing in the first 3 games of the season, has been injured ever since. So in addition to having the huge mismatch on this side of the ball, UConn's also healthier. So UConn's offense should not have problems moving the ball in this game. If this number's below 7, I think UConn's playable. I would probably make the number 7, 7.5. So you can get an affordable -110, 6.5. I think the move is UConn. Also don't hate it over at 64.5 in this one. FAU moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour. All they do is throw it. We should see a lot of points in this game. So UConn -6.5 if you can get it. Over 64.5 isn't a bad look either if the weather's okay, which I think it's going to be, but there is a slight chance of rain. All right, we got Duke on the road against North Carolina. Both these teams are coming off tough losses. The Duke one is a lot more embarrassing than the North Carolina. The North Carolina game, yeah, that's a tough loss. They lost to Wake Forest. 28-12 was the final score, but final score is a little misleading. There was a couple wonky plays in there. The touchdown at the end was very controversial and talked about because the total was affected. And on top of that, one of Wake Forest's touchdowns, they fumbled it and recovered their own fumble and ran for 60 yards. So they had a long touchdown fumble return that was their own fumble. So a couple of weird plays there. Wake Forest was the better team, but they didn't get dominated or anything. Duke, on the other hand, they got dominated. Virginia beat the hell out of Duke. In fact, Duke scored a couple times late to make this game look closer than it even was. Virginia dominated that game. So when we're talking about this matchup here, the Duke offense against the North Carolina defense, if this was 2 weeks ago, I would have been like, oh, I don't even care how good North Carolina's defense looked. This Duke offense can score on anybody. And I mean, they're 29th in success rate, 29th in PPA per play. North Carolina's defense has looked great, like I said. But if it was 2 weeks ago, I would have said, I don't even care about North Carolina's defense. Duke is going to score here. They always score. But it's kind of hard to unsee what happened last week. A home game against Virginia. They were held to 4.4 yards per play, under 32% success rate, just 17 points in the game. And you might be thinking, well, Kyle, we shouldn't just overreact to one game, which is good advice. You should not overreact to one game. But this team just got dominated at home. And in addition to just getting dominated at home, and this offensive team, this offensively centered team, got dominated and shut down at home. In addition to that, their season's over. This is a team that was in the running to possibly play in the ACC championship game. It's over now. And they're playing a North Carolina team that's, I mean, they're still playing for bowl eligibility. They're playing their best football of the year right now. So it's kind of like these two teams are trending in opposite directions. And like I said, I mean, North Carolina's defense has been great. In the last 5 games, they're allowing just 4.33 yards per play. Success rate under 38%. They're also getting their main cornerback, Thad Dixon. He's missed the last 5 games. So these 5 games we're looking at, the numbers from the last 5 games, they haven't even had their main corner on the field. He's supposed to return from this one. So they're actually even healthier as well. So I trust this North Carolina defense. I still trust Duke's offense, but motivation comes into question now after that loss. And this is a rivalry game, and this North Carolina defense is strong. So I wouldn't be surprised if Duke's offense has some problems in this one. Almost everyone North Carolina has seen has had problems against them, except the TCU game in the opener. On the other side of the ball, obviously, we know North Carolina's offense is bad. They're 118th in success rate, 125th in PPA per play. They've looked slightly better recently. Slightly. Emphasis on the word slightly. This is still not a good offense at all. But what can we even say about Duke's defense anymore? They're 92nd in success rate, 123rd in PPA per play. I cut them a little bit of slack last week. I ended up adding Duke. It was one of my last-minute additions. I bet Duke last week against Virginia. It wasn't even close. And my thoughts were, with this Duke defense, I cut them some slack because they went through such a gauntlet schedule-wise. They played Georgia Tech. They played Clemson. They played a very good UConn offense. Then they had a home game against Virginia, a Virginia offense that hasn't played well in a while. And, I mean, Virginia did whatever they wanted on them. So how can we have faith in this Duke defense right now? They're also injured as hell. Linebacker Nick Morris is out for the season. That's not new. That was probably about a month ago, 5 or 6 weeks ago. Linebacker Elliott Chaper is out for the season. Cornerback Musa Kame, he's missed the last few weeks. Doesn't look like he'll be back. Same goes for their other corner, Kamari Robinson. Safety Terry Moore still hasn't played, and I doubt he's coming back. So the injuries are also racking up on this Duke defense. We know the secondaries had problems in coverage all year. I mean, they've been getting thrown on all year. The strength of this Duke defense, pretty much the only strength, is the defensive line. I mean, they have a pass rush. They're pretty decent against the run. But the only strength of this North Carolina offense is the offensive line. And actually, escaping pressure and delivering throws has pretty much been the only thing that Gio Lopez has done consistently decent all year. He's actually decent under pressure. He's pretty good in terms of escapability. So I wouldn't be surprised if North Carolina is able to move the ball. I mean, this is a tough one because Duke has been so much better than North Carolina this year. Like, these two teams don't even belong in the same conversation, but there's so many things trending in opposite directions here. Injury-wise, Duke is more injured. North Carolina is getting a player back. Duke's season just ended. North Carolina's, I mean, they're 4-6. They could still play in a bowl game. They're playing their best football of the year right now. They're somehow still bowl eligible. So at a full 7, it's got to be North Carolina here. I almost bet this. North Carolina +7 next. East Carolina is on the road to play UTSA, and we know what the deal is here. It's the Roadrunners at home in the Alamo Dome. And this offense, this is just an arena football team or something, because this offense just works so much better in this building. In their home games, they're averaging over 48 points per game, over 6.9 yards per play. In their road games, those numbers drop to 21.7 points per game, 5.52 yards per play. And that's not just this year. That's multiple years. This offense is so much better at home in the Alamo Dome. And get this, they've never lost a home game in this building since Traylor took over as head coach. 24 consecutive home conference games in this building. So UTSA is a different animal in the Alamo Dome. So you look at this ECU defense, and it's great. It's one of the best defenses in the conference. Them in South Florida, neck and neck for the best defense in the conference. ECU 14th in success rate, 19th in PPA per play. But this UTSA offense is just different in the Dome. They just hang points on everybody. Like I said, they're averaging over 48 points per game in this building, and they were over 42 points per game in this building last year. So even though this ECU defense is strong, they're better against the run, and UTSA is kind of a run-and-gun, explosive play type offense, which is what ECU has actually struggled with. Defensively, they're 101st in explosive play rate allowed. UTSA, 24th in explosive play rate. And honestly, since we have this graphic open, I think ECU can connect on some explosive plays of their own. I know they haven't been that type of offense, but UTSA can't stop giving up big plays. On this side of the ball, I think ECU is going to score right back. I mean, we're talking about ECU. They run a billion miles an hour. They're 5th in college football on pace. UTSA's defense has been okay at times, but for the most part, it's a pretty vulnerable defense. We talked about how UTSA's offense puts up big numbers in this building. Well, look at ECU's offense. In their last 4 games, they're averaging over 41 points per game, over 50% success rate. I expect this game to move fast. I think we're going to see a lot of big plays. We're in the Alamo Dome. Points. I'm on over 61.5. Let me see where that number's at right now. It's at 62.5 now. Yeah, I think it should be 64.5. So I think it's still playable at 62.5. This should be a shootout. I'm on the over. USC is on the road in Eugene, and right off the bat, I know there's probably some concern. USC's offense hasn't looked the same on the road, and that's true. You could see 45.3 points per game at home, just 27.5 on the road. Success rate is down. Yards per play is down. But look at the road games they've played so far this year. 3 of them are the middle of the country, new Big Ten cross-country road trips, with which not only USC, pretty much the entire Big Ten has struggled in those road trips. The other game was in South Bend against a Notre Dame defense they look like a top 5 defense recently. A trip to Eugene, not that Oregon's defense isn't good. It looks great, but that's a little bit different. This is a Pac-10 game here. This is not a weird trip for USC to go up to Oregon. Now, they're just 1-5 in their last 6 games against Oregon, 2-4 against the spread. But this is not a program that's intimidated by going to Eugene. They're 1-2 in their last 3 trips, 2-1 against the spread. The last time they went, they were catching 16.5 points, played them to a single-digit game. There was another time when they were catching a big number. They played them to a 3-point game. So, I mean, this is a rivalry game. I don't think USC's home-away splits apply here for this trip to Eugene. And like I said, Oregon's defense is great. They're 17th in success rate, 6th in PPA per play, but we do have to question the strength of competition here for Oregon's defense, because USC's offense, there's not many that I would take over them. They're 3rd in success rate, 3rd in PPA per play. The only offense that Oregon has seen this year that's comparable to USC's is Indiana. And Indiana went into Eugene, won outright. In fact, they pretty much controlled the entire game.
30-20 was the final score. Not that Oregon's defense got lit up. I mean, Indiana, 5.36 yards per play, 45.6% success rate. Those are okay offensive numbers, nothing crazy. The point is, Indiana's offense was able to go into Eugene and consistently move the chains and put points on the board. I think USC's offense can do the same thing. Now, USC's defense since that Indiana game has been elite. They're allowing less than 3.6 yards per play, 33% success rate, 11.5 points per game. But look at the opponents. Minnesota's the worst offense in the Big Ten, probably. Iowa, good football team, not the most explosive offense, and that game was in the rain. Wisconsin, well, it's between them and Minnesota. They're actually might even be worse than Minnesota as far as worst conference in the Big Ten. And Rutgers injured as hell. So they've had a very favorable schedule since that Indiana game. Now, there are some concerns here for USC's offense, a couple injury concerns. Starting left tackle Elijah Page got injured in the Iowa game. He was seen in a knee brace. It doesn't look like he's going to play. Now, he was injured earlier in the season also. I think he's only played 5 or 6 games all year, so he was injured, then he came back and got injured again. So it looks like they're missing their left tackle, but they've been missing him for several games this year. So I suppose that's something. Iowa's defense was able to slow USC down a bit. 5.71 yards per play, 43.1% success rate. I mean, Iowa's defense was also able to slow Oregon down. That was in the rain and in Kinnick. But like I said, I think Mayav is able to move the ball in this game. I mean, we saw USC go on the road to South Bend. That Notre Dame defense is playing on another planet right now. And look, it wasn't the most efficient game ever for Maava, but he threw for 328 yards. They played Notre Dame to a 10-point game. In fact, that was 27-24 in the fourth quarter, and then USC fumbled and gave Notre Dame a touchdown. They lost 34-24. But USC had the ball down 3 in the fourth quarter in South Bend, and Maava, he didn't handle the Notre Dame pass rush very well. He had a 121.5 NFL passer rating when given a clean pocket. So when he had opportunities in South Bend to make the throws, he made the throws. Like I said, he had 328 yards passing, and I personally think Notre Dame's defense right now is better than Oregon's defense. So, yeah, I think USC is going to move the ball. Now, on the other side of the ball, I don't know how USC is able to stop Oregon on the ground. This Oregon run game it's on another level. They're first in success rate per rush, first in PPA per rush. Also, USC's defense dealing with a couple injuries. I'm not sure if these guys are going to play, but both their safeties are banged up right now. Bishop Fitzgerald, it actually looks like he is going to play, but Kamari Ramsey, that's the other safety, he's listed as questionable. So injuries at the safety position for USC, obviously important positions when it comes to tackling. So look, USC struggled against the run. I don't know how they stop Oregon from running the ball, but if we're talking about covering 10.5 points, you're going to want more than just a run game. You're going to need Dante Moore to have a big game, and he hasn't looked all that great. In the last 3 games, he's averaging just 168 passing yards per game. Passer rating doesn't look great. He hasn't handled pressure all that well. And they've got serious injury concerns at the wide receiver position. Evan Stewart was supposed to be their star wide receiver this year. He got injured, I think, in camp. I forget exactly when he got injured, but he hasn't played a snap this year. So Oregon's been playing this entire season without their star wide receiver. DeCorian Moore is their 5-star number 1 wide receiver recruit freshman. He's most likely going to miss another game. Gary Bryant Jr., another one of their main wide receivers, he might miss another game. Now, they did just get their tight end back, Kenyon Sadiq, which is huge, and I think he had a big game against Minnesota. So they did just get their tight end back. But Oregon's missing their top 3 wide receivers right now. There's a good chance Oregon is playing this game without their top 3 wide receivers. Now, they got their right tackle, Alex Harkey, back, which is huge. So tight end's back, right tackle's back. Top 3 wide receivers might be out for this game. And if we're talking about laying 10.5 points in a rivalry game against an elite offense with just a run game, now I want to be clear, I don't think USC can stop Oregon from running the ball. I mean, these numbers are pretty clear here. In their last 4 games, Oregon's averaging over 264 rushing yards per game, 7.2 yards per carry, and USC's been consistently run on. So Oregon's going to hand the ball off. I don't think USC's capable of stopping it, but we're talking about laying 10.5 points, maybe missing the top 3 receivers against one of the most explosive offenses in the country. And another thing, there's a perception that USC is out of it because they took a couple losses and they're sitting there with 2 losses. But in conference, they're 6-1, same as Oregon. In fact, if USC wins this game, they're very much in it. If USC wins this game and Michigan beats Ohio State, USC has a good chance of playing in the Big Ten championship game. Remember, they beat Michigan, so they would have the tiebreaker over Michigan. So USC is not out of it at all. They're very much in this race. This is a huge game, a rivalry game. I think Oregon's had a little bit of a cakewalk of a schedule. If you look at their last 4 opponents since the not since the Iowa game, since the Indiana game, they lost to Indiana. Got Minnesota at home. Iowa, that's a really great win, tough game. They had to hit a field goal at the end to win it. They almost lost that game. Wisconsin, they struggled in that one. Rutgers was a blowout, but it's Rutgers. They're so hurt. Yeah, I'm on USC plus 10.5. I think this is going to be a great game. I think it comes down to the last possession. I'm on Lincoln Riley.
We've got Kentucky on the road against Vanderbilt. And look, I'm not letting one good game where they scored 38 points, 57.1% success rate, almost 6 yards per play. It was a great offensive game for Kentucky. They beat the hell out of Florida. But I'm not going to let that one good game erase what we've seen from Cutter Boley in this offense the rest of the season. I mean, in the five games before that, they averaged 4.7 yards per play, under 17 points per game. Now, the Vanderbilt defense isn't anything special, but this is not a Florida team that might have quit at halftime. I mean, Vanderbilt's just still trying to get to the college football playoff here. They're strong against the run. Where they've struggled is in the secondary. And like I said, Cutter Boley, great game against Florida, but he only had 168 yards through the air. He was efficient, but he didn't drop back to pass a ton. So I don't think this Kentucky offense is equipped to exploit where Vanderbilt has been struggling. And kind of same thing goes for Vanderbilt's defense. I'm not going to let 2 games trick me into thinking Vanderbilt's defense is absolutely terrible. They allowed 36 points per game in their last 2, 7 yards per play. That was against Texas and Auburn. And look, that's concerning. Those aren't the best offenses, but let's not forget in week 9 when they played a game against a backup, Pribula started the game and then the freshman took over. They shut Missouri down, and Missouri has a stronger run game than Kentucky. I think Vanderbilt's defense can play well in this one. And on the other side of the ball, this is where Kentucky deserves some respect. They're not an elite defense, but they do have a strong defensive front. They're 70th in success rate, 58th in PPA per play. Vanderbilt, we know, is an offense that needs to run the ball. So it's not a terrible matchup for Kentucky on this side of the ball, but the injuries are kind of racking up here for this Kentucky defense. Their safety, Jordan Lovett, their 5th leading tackler, he's now out for the season. That's a new injury too. Their linebacker, Alex Safari Jr., their 3rd leading tackler, he might not play in this game. He's listed as questionable. Their corner, Nichols, who's one of their starting corners, he might miss his 3rd straight game. Starting defensive tackle Khalil Saunders left the Tennessee Tech game injured and is questionable. So the injuries are just mounting up here for Kentucky, and Vanderbilt's a team that's still in the running. We know how efficient this offense can be, and I think a home game against Kentucky is a perfect get-right spot for them. I'm on Vandy here. I laid the 7.5. I did bet this one. Arkansas is on the road in Texas, and we're talking about an Arkansas football team that has lost 8 games in a row. 8 consecutive losses. But here's the thing. Want to know how many of those 8 losses were by double digits? Just one. Just the Notre Dame game. All the other ones, they were in it down to the wire. In fact, in most of them, they gave the game away. And check this out. Bill Connolly's SP Plus rankings. So according to these rankings, Arkansas is the most unlucky team in college football this year. Check this out. So according to these advanced metrics, they should have 3.62 more wins than they have. So they're sitting at 2-8. According to these metrics, Bill Connolly's SP Plus rankings, they should have 3.62 more wins. This is where it gets wild. The next closest, so the next most unlucky team is Oregon State at 2.59. So Arkansas is 3.62 wins under expected. Oregon State 2.59. So according to these metrics, Arkansas is the most unlucky team in college football this year by an actual mile. Now, in terms of matching them up against Texas here, we know this Arkansas offense is powerful. It's been strong all year. They're 13th in success rate, 12th in PPA per play. The Texas defense equally as strong, although I do have some concerns. I thought getting Taffy back, the safety, he had missed a couple games. He came back for the Georgia game. I thought that was going to be huge for Texas. They really struggled defensively in this game, and they lost linebacker Anthony Hill Jr., who's one of the best players on this team. He got hurt in the Georgia game. It looks like he's not going to play in this one. And if you look at the last 3 games for Texas, they're allowing almost 35 points per game, over 43% success rate, over 5.8 yards per play. Now they played Vanderbilt, who, by the way, scored a lot of that late in the game. Mississippi State, they played Georgia. So they did play some strong offenses, but they're playing Arkansas. And I think the Texas defense is stronger than these numbers show, but
We're talking about 3 games in a row now. So we do have to start asking questions like, how good do we think this Texas defense really is, and how strong can they be here against an Arkansas offense that's one of the most explosive in college football without Anthony Hill Jr. on the field? So I think it's safe to say that Arkansas is going to move the ball in this game. And in fact, I don't think many people would disagree with that. It's on the other side of the ball. This is where most people are probably like, Kyle, who cares? Arkansas's defense is so bad. And look, their year-long numbers are concerning. 123rd in success rate, 122nd in PPA per play. But Texas offensive numbers are just as bad. 110th in success rate, 89th in PPA per play. And don't look now. Arkansas is starting to play some defense. Now, these numbers aren't elite, but if you look at their last 3 games, when they finally started seeing lesser offenses, Auburn, Mississippi State, LSU, they're still allowing over 31 points per game, but turnovers gifted some of those points. They're allowing less than 5.5 yards per play, 40.8% success rate. Compare that to the previous 5 games where Arkansas was just getting consistently lit up. They were allowing 41 points per game, 41.6, over 52% success rate, over 7.6 yards per play. They were just getting smoked every game, and this is where the narrative came from, where Arkansas's defense is absolutely terrible. And I understand why people were thinking that. I was thinking that also, but also look at the opponents. Ole Miss, Memphis is even strong. Notre Dame, Tennessee, Texas A&M. They went through the absolute gauntlet. Now that they're starting to see some offenses that aren't as strong, we're seeing Arkansas play some defense. And how good do we think this Texas offense is? In the last 6 games, they have a success rate under 36%. They're under 5.3 yards per play. They look terrible against Georgia, although let's give them some credit. There was a lot of drop passes there. Texas offense could have looked a lot better in that Georgia game if the wide receivers could hold on to the football. So I'm sure at home they'll look better against this Arkansas defense. But with Texas A&M on deck, this is a look-ahead spot for the Longhorns. They want to spoil Texas A&M's perfect season more than anything in the world. So it's a little bit of a look-ahead spot. Not that they won't come out fired up or anything, but I think Arkansas can score on them, and I think they could even generate some stops. I think this is a close game. I'm on a good number in this one. I'm on Arkansas. I got plus 10.5. I honestly think it should be 7, so I think it's still playable at the 8.5, 9. Obviously, I like the 10.5 better, but yeah, I'm on the Hogs here. Tulane is on the road at Temple, and we've kind of seen a tale of 2 seasons here for this Tulane offense. If you remember, first month and a half of the season, the narrative here with Tulane's offense was this team could only run it. Retzlaff had really ugly numbers throwing the football. Well, in the last 5 games, he's kind of put that to rest. He threw some interceptions in the UTSA game, but look at his last 5 games. He's got an NFL passer rating over 108, 275 passing yards per game. He's delivering throws from a clean pocket. Jake Retzlaff looks good in the last 5 games. So you would think, this Temple defense won't be a problem for Tulane. And on paper, I think that's true. But keep in mind, Temple is coming off a bye week. They've had 2 weeks to prep for this one. Casey Keeler's a great head coach, and we saw some awesome game plans during his days with Sam Houston State. I wouldn't be surprised if Temple's able to put out a decent defensive effort here. Check this out. So the last time we saw Temple play was week 11 on the road in Army. They held Army to 14 points under 3.8 yards per play. So the last time we saw Temple play, they looked great on the defensive side of the ball. Since the bye week, look how much healthier this defense is. Defensive tackle Demerick Morris was out, but he's on track to return for this one, so they're getting a defensive tackle back. Linebacker Eric Stewart, who's not one of the starters, he's their 3rd linebacker. He's missed the last 2 games. He's expected to return for this game. Safety Avery Powell, who's 2nd leading tackler on the team, he's been out. He's practicing and expecting to return. And edge rusher, actually, I think the edge rusher, Chroma, he's listed as questionable, so I'm not sure if he's going to return. But they might be getting 2 starters and 1 role player back on this defense. In fact, I believe they are getting 2 starters and 1 role player back. They might be getting a 3rd starter back. That one's not sure. So this Temple defense is rested, 2 weeks to prepare. They're healthier. They're coming off a great performance. I think Temple's going to give them a game here. I think Temple's defense can put up a fight. And on the other side of the ball, let's not forget that this Tulane defense has been wildly disappointing this year. Last year, Tulane had one of the best, arguably the best defense in the conference for about 11 games. And then they just completely fell apart. The Memphis lit them up in week 14. Then Army lit them up in the conference championship game. And they just never recovered on this side of the ball because 121st in success rate, 88th in PPA per play. We are talking about KC Keeler here. It's a tricky offense to prepare for. There's a lot of moving pieces. It kind of reminds me of the Mike McDaniel Miami Dolphins offense. There's guys in motion. They're running the ball in different directions every single play. A lot of misdirection. And Temple's offense has been good. They're 50th in success rate, 50th in PPA per play. The problems Temple's been having have not been on the offensive side of the ball. In the last 5 games, they're averaging 29 points per game, over 6.2 yards per play, over 48% success rate. This Temple offense has been pretty good. And with 2 weeks to prepare, Tulane's defense has been disappointing. I think this is a game. I think Temple's live. I like this one. I'm on Temple plus 9.5. Do it, Owls. Let's talk some Mountain West. We got New Mexico on the road to play Air Force here. So the final score of New Mexico's last game, a little bit misleading. Obviously, you look at this 2017 over a terrible Colorado State team, you think this is a concerning data point. New Mexico dominated this game. It's a weird football game. There were 8 turnovers in it, 4 on both sides. So I don't really take anything away from New Mexico for this data point. The weather's supposed to be fine here, which means I would imagine New Mexico is able to make some throws. Jack Lane hasn't been the most consistent quarterback in the world, but when he's been given opportunities to make throws, he has made them. And Air Force on paper, we've talked about this all year. On paper, they're the worst pass defense in college football. They got one of their defensive backs back from injury, Levi Brown, so maybe they're slightly better. And they weren't absolutely terrible in the UConn game, but this is still not a great pass defense. So I would imagine Jack Lane's able to make throws here. The question is, can New Mexico's defense make stops against Air Force offense? Now, obviously, the lead story here when it comes to Air Force offense is, what the hell's his name? Zarka, the quarterback, who's also the leading rusher and the best player on that offense. He's injured. He's not going to play. So you would think there's no way we could trust this Air Force offense without him. New Mexico's been pretty solid on this side of the ball, too. 55th in success rate, 67th in PPA per play. They also just got their safety, Austin. Check this out. So they also just got their safety, Austin Brawley, back from injury last week. His first game back, he had been out since week 1. So he's basically been out this entire season. He's one of their best defensive players. His first game back, he had 2 INTs. He had 2 picks last week. He was the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Week. So they got one of their best defensive players back last week. He had 2 interceptions in his first game back. I will say, look, I know they're missing their best player, but the quarterback that's starting is named Kemper Hodges. And I was on Air Force plus 7.5. So I watched every single snap of that UConn game. And then I actually watched it again, the condensed version. He actually looked pretty good. He doesn't have the same explosivity, I guess would be the word, that Zarka gives Air Force, but he was making some plays. He had like a nice pump fake and ran for 20 yards. I thought he looked all right. And this Air Force offense has been really good. I kind of think Air Force is still able to move the ball in this game. Maybe not the explosive plays that we were seeing with Zarka, but I wouldn't be surprised if New Mexico does struggle to get off the field at times in this game. Now, they've been very strong against the run. In their last 5 games, they're allowing just 2.92 yards per carry, 33% success rate per rush, just 93 rushing yards per game. Colorado State, UNLV's comparable, Utah State's. There's some decent data points in there. So maybe I shouldn't have a ton of faith in this offense with a backup quarterback against New Mexico, especially getting one of their best players back on defense. But now that it's moved above a field goal, I think it's moved a bit far. I know some people that got into New Mexico under 3. Obviously, that's looking like a good bet. At 3.5, I think it's a bit much. Keep in mind, New Mexico's 0-10 in their last 10 trips to Colorado Springs, just 3-7 against the spread. First-year head coach. Now we're laying more than a field goal just because one player's out. I think it's a little bit much. I'm not going to take Air Force. To be honest, if I was to bet the game, I think Air Force is able to sustain some drives, and they move slow, they run the ball. Air Force has been an over team because because they get cooked through the air, and also because of all the explosive plays. They rip so many big plays. But without Zarka, I don't think the explosive plays are going to be there, but I still think Air Force is able to sustain some drives. So as much as I would love to take Air Force, I can't do it. I don't hate an under at 53.5. I think Air Force is able to choose some clock, maybe some field goal drives, maybe play some field position. So give me the under, 53.5, but unfortunately, I couldn't pull the trigger on anything here. Pittsburgh on the road in Georgia Tech. This is a huge game in terms of ACC ACC championship implications. Georgia Tech coming off back-to-back awful road games. I mean, they get smoked by NC State. They follow that up by almost losing to Boston College. So this is a team that badly needed to come home. Like I said, this is a huge game. These two teams they're both sitting with one loss in conference. They're saying this is basically an ACC championship semifinal because the winner of this game is going to be in very good position to play in the ACC championship game. They're saying this is one of the biggest games in front of this crowd in a decade, I think the article said. This place is going to be going nuts. This is playoff atmosphere. This is basically a postseason game for Georgia Tech. So they should have a very strong home field advantage in this one. And this building has been kind to Georgia Tech. They're undefeated at home this year, 5-0 straight up, 4-1 against the spread. And it's not just this year, it's last year as well. They haven't lost a game in this building since 2023. They've won 10 games in a row in this building. They're 7-2-1 against the spread. So I know they looked a little shaky in their last two on the road. They're coming back home now, and Georgia Tech always looks so strong in this building. So I'm not so worried about those two data points. And look, the Georgia Tech defense is concerning. They're 98th in success rate, 103rd in PPA per play on the year. They just got smoked in back-to-back games on the road. They did get a bit healthier, though. Cornerback Amari Harvey is back after missing 3 games. Defensive tackle Matthew Alexander is back after missing 2 games. Now, Pitt should be getting Desmond Reed back, who's one of their best offensive players. But Heinzel seems to be coming back down to earth. And I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia Tech is actually able to play a decent defensive game here. I know it's been bad. In the last 2 games against NC State and Boston College, both on the road, 41 points per game, over 8.4 yards per play, over 50% success rate. 2 terrible defensive games in a row, both on the road. And I think these 2 data points, coupled with the fact that they were missing players that came back, actually a couple of them came back for the Boston College, but they're back at home where they always play better. They're a little bit healthier. I think we're going to see Georgia Tech with a much better defensive effort. And I mentioned the quarterback Heinzel. So he took over for Eli Holstein, and the offense just exploded for a couple games. I forget who they lit up in the first one, but they went on the road to Florida State and put up a big number, and Heinzel looked good, and we were all kind of like, well, Pittsburgh has their quarterback. This kid's awesome. And clearly he's an upgrade from Eli Holstein, but he's kind of come back down to earth. In his last 4 games, he's got a 77.5 NFL passer rating. Oh, the first game was Boston College. I have it written down. The first game they lit up was Boston College. Then they went to Florida State. The last 4 games haven't been very impressive. They turned the ball over 4 times in their last road game. That was at Stanford. So I don't know how much faith I have in Mason Heinzel right now. And I think we're going to see the best fastball from Georgia Tech's defense. And on the other side of the ball, look, this is a tough matchup for Georgia Tech. Pittsburgh is very strong defensively, 7th in success rate, 31st in PPA per play. They're also healthier. Kyle Lewis was out. He's been back for a game or 2. Rasheem Biles is back. That was their leading tackler before he got hurt. He's back as well. The corners that were injured are back. So this Pittsburgh defense is good. They're strong against the run, which is huge against Georgia Tech. They're also healthier. Here's the thing. This offense, first of all, it looks unstoppable. But in this building especially, I mean, they're one of the most efficient, most unstoppable offenses in the country. They're 5th in success rate, 13th in PPA per play. Look at their last 5 games. 35 points per game, over 7.7 yards per play, over 54% success rate. They also got an offensive lineman back. Their starting left guard, Harrison Moore, back from injury. He missed 3 games, so they're even healthier on the offensive line. This is an offense that runs the ball, right, with Haynes, both Haynes King, Jamal Haynes. This is a run-first offense all the way, but Haynes King is even averaging 300 passing yards a game in his last 5, which isn't even what Georgia Tech does. But they got one of their wide receivers back from injury, Malik Rutherford. He just came back last week. Haynes King, 300 passing yards per game. As good as Pitt's defense is, and I'm big on Pitt's defense. I'm always gassing up that defensive front. I think they're a lead against the run, but Georgia Tech in this building, there's not many defenses, I think, that could stop them from scoring. I think they're that strong on this side of the ball. So at under a field goal, it's Georgia Tech. I think those back-to-back shaky road games are getting us a discount here. I think this should be 3, maybe even 3.5. The market disagrees. It seems to be coming down. This team just never loses here. I'm on Georgia Tech. I bet this one. Georgia Tech minus 2.5. Tennessee is on the road in Gainesville, and I guess the lead story here is, will the streak come to an end? Right? For those of you that don't follow SEC football, it's been a long time since Tennessee won here. In their last 10 trips to the Swamp, they're 0-10. 2-8 against the spread. Tennessee has really struggled in this building. 2003 was the last time Tennessee won a football game in the swamp. So right off the bat, Tennessee looking to end the streak, and Florida's actually honoring Urban Meyer at the game. It's an Urban Meyer honorary ceremony or something. So yeah, Florida wants to keep this streak alive. Now this Florida team, some weird data points here. They played Georgia down to the wire in the world's biggest cocktail party, whatever they call it. Played them down to the wire. Then they get absolutely smoked by Kentucky, who's one of the worst teams in the conference. Then they follow that up by going toe-to-toe with Ole Miss, although that game was a little wonky. The final score was 34-24, and it was a close game, wire to wire. Florida's offense, okay, the final score is a little bit misleading. So Florida scored 21 points in the first 18 minutes of the game on 3 huge plays. They had an interception that gave them the ball on the 5. They had like a 65-yard touchdown pass, and then they had another huge play that got the ball down to like the 2. So they got 21 points on 3 huge plays, and I'm not downplaying the plays or anything. There were awesome plays, but outside of those 3 plays, Florida was not consistently moving the ball here. From 6 minutes remaining in the second quarter, they scored 3 points the rest of the game, and I'm pretty sure they scored 0 points in the second half. So I'm not sure if what we saw against Ole Miss necessarily erases my concerns for this Florida offense. I still don't think this is a reliable offense. They're 77th in success rate on the season, 101st in PPA per play. Now, Tennessee has had all kinds of problems on this side of the ball, specifically in the secondary. They've been playing this entire season without their top 2 corners. Jermod McCoy, who's an NFL guy, by the way. That's like an NFL first-round pick talent. And Ricky Gibson is the other guy. 2 of the best players on the team, 2 of the best players on the defense. Tennessee's been playing this entire season without them. So we've seen Tennessee have all kinds of problems in coverage, but got to keep in mind, Florida's missing Dallas Wilson and Eugene Wilson. 2 of their best, probably their 2 best wide receivers, both out for the year. So Tennessee's missing their top 2 corners. Florida's missing their top 2 wide receivers. There's going to be opportunities for DJ Lagway to make throws in this game because, like I said, Tennessee has struggled in coverage, but even in the Ole Miss game where it went down to the wire, I mean, DJ Lagway, a 69.5 NFL passer rating. He really wasn't efficient throwing the ball. So I don't know. I don't really trust Tennessee's defense, but how do you have faith in Florida's offense, honestly? Where I do have faith in Florida, though, is on the other side of the ball. You look at this graphic, and it looks like it's a huge advantage for Tennessee. 9th in success rate, 8th in PPA per play. Meanwhile, Florida's defense, 57th and 73rd. But it's not. This is going to be a really tough matchup for Tennessee's offense. Florida should be getting their big defensive tackle back, Caleb Banks. He's only played in 1 game all year. He returned to practice this week. This Florida defense has been strong, even though the season-long numbers don't show it. And believe it or not, Joey Aguilar has played this entire season as quarterback for Tennessee. He's played 1 tough road game this whole year at Tuscaloosa. 268 yards, a 76.9 NFL passer rating. So the only time we've seen Joey Aguilar thrown into a tough SEC environment, he struggled, and Tennessee got boat raced in that game. So I think Florida's defense at home, they're honoring Urban Meyer. The Florida defense has been reliable despite what the numbers show. I think they're able to give Tennessee problems. So I can't take Florida +4 because I don't trust DJ Lagway. I don't trust that offense at all. I do think this game stays under, though. It's up at 57.5, and that's because of the type of offense that Tennessee plays and the type of football games they tend to play. But I think Florida's able to give them problems, and I think this game's lower scoring. I'll probably make the total 55.5, 54.5, but I didn't bet this one. It'll be Florida and under for me. I think Florida's defense shows out in this one. North Texas on the road against Rice, and I believe it's free beer, ice cream, and t-shirt day. Senior day for Rice, and I believe the seniors that are 21 get free beer, ice cream, and shirts. I don't know. It's just what I'm reading. So, yeah, senior day for Rice. Rice coming off the bye week. Are they able to make stops against North Texas offense, which looks unstoppable? It's tough to say. I mean, the Rice defense has looked pretty good. I know we all watched that, I think it was a Friday night game against Memphis, and it was terrible. Their last 3 games, though, they're allowing 29.7 points per game. Success rate is under 40%. It really hasn't been that bad. And that Memphis game is even a bit deceiving. They gifted Memphis 28 points immediately. And then they actually played some decent defense the rest of the game. Now, North Texas offensively is a wagon. In their last 4 games, over 48 points per game, 53.6% success rate, 7.9 yards per play. Absolutely elite. But against who? UTSA, not a strong defense, and that was also a home game. UTSA is a different team on the road. Charlotte, one of the worst teams in the conference, so injured on both sides of the ball. Navy has no secondary at all. And then UAB, one of the worst defenses in the entire country. So maybe a little bit of a sell high spot on North Texas offense. Rice is going to be the toughest defense they've seen in a while. We know the North Texas is another offense that's much better at home. They're going on the road. Now, Rice has specifically struggled with explosive plays, which is terrifying for this matchup because North Texas has been a huge play machine. Rice is also missing their safety, Davion Hook. He's been out since week 10. So one of their starters on defense, their safety. So it's tough to count on Rice to stop this offense because they've been such a wagon. But I do think with an extra week to prepare, a little bit of a sell high, I wouldn't be surprised if North Texas struggles a little bit in this game. And on the other side of the ball, I think Rice can move the chains in this one. I know this graphic doesn't really look like it. 119th in success rate, 122nd in PPA per play, but they've had 2 weeks to prepare. Rice runs an option offense, and North Texas specifically has struggled against the run. They're 108th in success rate per rush, 109th in PPA per rush. We've seen North Texas play 2 games this year against option offenses. Week 4, they played Army. Week 10, they played Navy. In those games, they allowed 349 rushing yards per game, over 6.2 yards per carry, 56% success rate per rush. So say what you want about Rice offense. Army's offense isn't very good either. This North Texas defense has looked terrible against the option this year. And they're going on the road to Rice against an option offense that had 2 weeks to prepare. I think Rice can move the ball in this game. I want to take Rice. I want to take Rice plus the big number. Give me Rice plus 18. All right, I'm completely out of time, so I'm just going to run through a few games that I didn't have a chance to get to. There are 3 showing for Cincinnati against BYU. That might be into the playable range. We talked about this on the live show. I was leaning Cincinnati, but didn't have a ton of interest in it. That was at 2.5. I'm seeing some 3s pop. Actually, there's a 3 minus 112 available. Wow. I kind of like Cincinnati. Didn't pull the trigger on that one. I did take Colorado, but I got a much better number. I'm on Colorado plus 9.5. Who the hell is Jeff Sims to be laying 9.5 points on the road? It's down to 7 now. If you can still get a 7.5, I'd still take Colorado at that number. What else? No, I guess that's it. Georgia Tech, we went through that one. Yeah, I guess that's it. I don't think there's any other games that I missed. Washington, UCLA. I like Washington in that one as long as the weather's fine, which obviously it's in LA. It's probably going to be fine. So I like Washington to smoke UCLA. Yeah, let's have ourselves a great Saturday. Remember to bet responsibly. Talk to you all tomorrow.